you everybody. I request the President of the OBA, Mr. George Olopalli, to come on stage and welcome this august gathering.
Thank you, Chris. Can everybody hear me? Clear?
Yeah.
Thank you. On behalf of the Old Boys Association, let me extend a very warm welcome and thank you all for being here this evening. Feral Dolby, Sukhi Ghosh, Shaila Degaya, and Neela Ratnam. Your presence, as I said earlier, makes today a very special day for all of us. To all our guests present here, especially those who have served and currently serve the country, thank you for being with us today. And to the commanding officers of the 4 regiments who have not only responded promptly to all our requests but also arranged to be represented here, Colonel Sabarish Menon, 5th Field, Colonel V.K.T. Patel, 6th Parada Light Infantry, Colonel Sandeep Mukherjee, 21 Jat, and Colonel Arun Shashi, 13th Sikh Light Infantry. Thank you. A very special word of thanks to our uniformed Josephites who have helped behind the scenes. General M.N. Devaya, General Bansi Ponnappa, who was here in the morning but who couldn't stay, Brigadier Paul Naidu and others. Without your help, this could not have happened. Thanks to the MEG for their band and the bugler for adding a nice touch to today's events. Thanks to the old students and associations from Clarence and Bishop Gordon's for being present and showing your solidarity here. We all understand that soldiers don't serve a school, they serve the nation. To the team of Josephites who worked hard to plan and execute this event, to Naveen Enterprises for the beautiful silver plaques, and Pramod Naidu for the very nice memorial plaques, and Martin for the granite engraving, thank you. If anybody had told me 7 months ago that there would be an event like this and we would be hosting such a service, I would have scoffed. What changed since then? A chance trip that my wife and I made last October to Arunachal Pradesh. Not a place where most people travel. We went last October and a photo of Captain J.A. Dolby's plaque at the shrine that the Indian Army maintains at Jaswantgarh. My sister locating a classmate Cheryl in Perth through social media, and my discovery while talking to Cheryl that her father was a Josephite and that we shared a bond. A follow-up while talking to our historian Colonel Chris Rego alerted me to other Josephites overlooked by us. I say overlooked but not forgotten. And we discovered Uday Shankar Ghosh, also known as Pulak from 63, my classmate Atul Devaya from 68, and Sylvester Ratnam from 88. Sylvester had his name engraved without the citation and the ceremony. We have addressed that today. 2 questions may spring to mind from anybody who's seated here. Why have this function? This function is to remember and honor 4 fellow Josephites who made the supreme sacrifice to protect the freedom of our country. Make no mistake, to protect the freedom of our country. It warrants their names being carved in pride at our school's war memorial and on the plaques on the wall of the school. Let students, old boys and parents know about it as long as the school exists. The 4 regiments represented here will be presented plaques today to take back, symbolic of the OBA honoring and respecting the hero's memory. More important, we demonstrate to the families that the school and the OBA honor and respect the memory of their loved ones at a place where they grew up and spent their formative years, making career choices with fond memories under the watchful eye of our teachers and gurus, the Jesuit fathers. Why so long? I don't have an answer. What I do know is that through the mist and fog of nearly 60 years from 1962, facts and records are not easy to check. But remember, these events didn't happen on Museum Road or MG Road or some urban setting and get immediate media coverage. No, they happened in remote locations. Arunachal, Siachen, Kupwara, or in foreign lands. And in 2 cases, the bodies were never recovered. Yes, IPKF was not given publicity. I know there was a shameful cover-up by politicians. I think 2 key factors were responsible for today's ceremony. Cheryl's immediate acceptance of an invitation to come, and my upbringing that has given me a far deeper awareness of service life than any previous OBA president. What do people often associate with our armed forces? A few phrases and words come to my mind to best describe some of these. A volunteer force, a secular organization, devoid of caste, creed and religion. Servicemen serving the nation for the best years of their lives, protecting the freedom of our country. Extreme danger and peril, hazards of extreme weather and high altitude, officers leading from the front, high caliber of leadership, discipline and obedience. In a phrase, esprit de corps. They sacrifice urban comforts and family life for a greater cause. Their lives are far away, devoid of show, and do not have any element of Hollywood or Bollywood with makeup and blank bullets. Theirs is a deadly serious business. How do I know this? As the son of Lieutenant Colonel O.P. Joseph, IC 1478 Regiment of Artillery, who served in the Indian Army for 3 decades and commanded an artillery regiment, my upbringing was with an awareness of army traditions, and my family continues to have links with the army. My sister is married to an officer who served in the IAS. Trevor Osmond once asked me, why no names post-independence were inscribed in the war memorial? Rest assured, today's ceremony will ensure that while we pray that no Josephites comes in harm's way, our OBA will never again overlook them again for so long. Let's talk about sacrifice. None of the 4 officers joined the services to sacrifice their lives, but they did. Like many others, officers have done before and will do in future. I have witnessed this many times and at close quarters, that the parents, spouses, children and siblings suffer the most. I can only guess at the trauma that you have undergone. As General Bansi Ponnappa put it very eloquently, the loss and sacrifice is for the family to bear. We in uniform understand and feel the pain too. On behalf of our school, our OBA and our nation, I salute you, and I hope that today's service helps you to attain some measure of closure. While I have presided over many OBA events as part of my job as OBA president, this one is different. I do not look at today as just another event on our calendar. No, this is very different. I deem it my duty as the son of a soldier to recognize and remember the sacrifice of our 4 old boys, and will conclude with the words inscribed on our war memorial. Greater love hath no man than he that lay down his life for his friends. Jai Hind. I will now pass the mic on to Chris
who's the third generation Josephite, Colonel Christopher Rego, Corps of Engineers. Please take over, Chris.
Thank you very much, George. A tradition of valor. This is not a tradition that is just post-independence. It's a tradition that is well over 100 years old. For your information of those who are new, this school was founded in 1858. So to show this tradition, I will be going through this slideshow. You will see some very old photographs. And this tradition is very much manifested in the galaxy of serving and retired officers that you see among the Josephites. That is the tradition. I'm very proud that myself to be a part of this tradition with my granddad, Major Lopez of the batch of 1926, my father, Air Commodore Rego of the batch of 1950, and Colonel Chris Rego of the batch of 1976. So, here's one of the first photographs we have. This was at the time when the Allies were suspecting there was going to be something going on in Europe. So everything in the school was militarized. And all our young boys, especially in the 8th, 9th, 10th standards and in senior Cambridge, had to be part of the drill. So you've heard of the BRV theatre. So BRV stands for the Bangalore Rifle Volunteers. And our school boys used to be very much a part of it. So here's when they won the cup. I think in this particular cup they beat out the army men in firing. 1910, this is the Hancock drill competition, a competition between all these schools in Bangalore, and it was won by St. Joseph's. You'll be very surprised to know that the first scout troop in Asia was right here in St. Joseph's. In fact, it was half St. Joseph's and half of Bishop Cotton's. May I know if there's anybody from Bishop Cotton's here? Yes. That's great. So the troop was half of both the schools, and I used to wonder how come the first scout troop of Asia was in St. Joseph's. Well, then I found out that Baden Powell, who founded the Scouts, was a lieutenant colonel at Bangalore. So perhaps that's one of the reasons why he came here and founded the first scout troop. Another picture of the Scouts, a very old picture. Now this is the preparation for war, the First World War. The minute the war started, in fact, the boys were recruited off the school. And believe it or not, they marched off from the grounds from here, some even without their mustaches. Walked right into the battle. They went to Africa, they went to France. This is Captain Cyril Hook. A nice story to go with Captain Cyril Hook. His mother wrote to the principal of St. Joseph's and said that she was so proud to have two of her sons fighting in the war. And she mentioned about Cyril. Sadly, the second letter that she wrote, she mentioned that Captain Cyril had unfortunately been killed in the war. And she said that she had bought a metal vest for him, like a chain link vest that would have protected him. But he said, honor forbids, because if I wear it, my men will not have it. He therefore refused, and he died from 3 bullets. So he's one of the first martyrs of our school. Captain W.C. Dennehy, he's from the Postal Service, and this was the medallion that was given to him. So for those who cannot read what is there at the bottom, I will just read it. He who this scroll commemorates has numbered among those who, at the call of king and country, left all that was dear to them, endured hardship, faced danger, and finally passed out of the sight of men by the path of duty and self-sacrifice, giving up their own lives that others may live in freedom. Let those who come after see to it that his name not be forgotten. Just as today we are not seeing that our martyrs be forgotten. Incidentally, at the end of the Second World War, Josephites had won 2 military crosses, 2 distinguished service medals, and 5 mentioned in dispatches. It is worth mentioning that more than 360 Josephites took part, and 28 were known to have given up their lives. Okay. This is a very rare photograph got from France. This is the installation of the War Memorial in the year 1921 after the war was over. As you can see, it's in a very different position that it was right now. And these are the flags of all the three allies. You'll see the American flag, the British flag, and the French flag. So a very iconic photograph. Now we come to the 1962 war. Our hero, Captain John Dolby, Cheryl's father of 5 Field Regiment, who attained martyrdom on the 18th of November 1962 at Jaswantgarh. He was from the class of 1947. A few pictures of him. This is with his mother, Miss Prescott, and his younger brother. Another picture of him in his blue petrols in the National Defence Academy. This was the memorial in the place, very close to the place where he was martyred. Another memorial at a place called Jaswantgarh that is again very close to his mother. This is the more modern memorial. Beautiful place, this whole building is over there in which the names of all the martyrs are inscribed. Coming to the Indo-Pak War of 1965, this is Lieutenant Colonel Haig. He was not a martyr, but he was the hero of the 1965 war. And he was such a big hero that his exploits in those battles are turned into books of history, which we as officers had to learn for our promotion exams. So, a word about the Battle of Dograi. This was a battle in which he led the infantry troops into Pakistan to attack a town called Dograi. Now, to know about this, here's an account of that battle which he fought. He led the 3 Jat, and on the other side were the Pathans from the Baluch regiment. So here's an account that was in the papers. Jats and Pathans fought hand to hand in the close quarter battle, shooting and bayoneting each other, even wrestling on the ground when the ammunition ran out. Brigadier Haig was wounded not once but thrice, but remained at his post. At the end of the battle, 360 soldiers of the 16th Punjab were killed, that is the opposing battalion, and 106 of them, including their commanding officer, taken prisoner. The Jats themselves lost nearly 90 men, with more than half the battalion wounded. For their valor, 3 Jat got the prestigious battle order of the Battle of Dograi, and for his bravery and leadership, Lieutenant Colonel Haig was awarded the nation's second highest bravery award, that is the Mahavir Chakra. Here are some pictures of him receiving the Mahavir Chakra from President Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. That was the medal that he got. And just a few words from him himself in his memoirs, what he had written. He said that men were killed with bullets, bayonets, and even boot heels and stones. Every street and every gully was bitterly contested. There was no respite, no mercy, and no compunction. So this picture was made by none other than M.F. Hussain in his traditional style, as you can make it. The Siachen Glacier, this is the next battle. Here we lost another one of our martyrs, Major Atul Devaya from the 6th Maratha Light Infantry, who was martyred on 14 February 1987. A few pictures of him. He was a hockey champ and a sportsman. You can see him there right in St. Joseph's, in fact just on the other side of this garden. And this is at the Indian Military Academy, along with his colleague, now Colonel Machado, who is here with us today, seated at extreme left. He is seated at the extreme right. A picture with his parents. Coming to the IPKF offerings of 1989, this was against the LTT, as you all know. There we lost Major Uday Shankar Ghosh, Sena Medal of 13th Sikh Light Infantry on the 26th of June 1989. And at Kopwara, this is Major Sylvester Rajesh Ratnam. We are privileged to have his mother with us, who was martyred on the 2nd of August 2002. Some pictures of him. This iconic saying from the cemetery at Kohima. When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We will now go on with the citation ceremony. Our first citation is Major Atul Devaya of 6th Maratha Light Infantry of the class of 1968. I call upon Mr. Shailendra Gupta, Colonel Francis Machado, and our President, Mr. George Olapalli, to come up on the stage. I request Mr. Shailendra Gupta of the class of 1968 to say a few words about his classmate, Major Atul Devaya.
Good evening, Mrs. Shaila Devaya, respected dignitaries of the armed forces, Father Principal Sunil Fernandez, respected guests, revered fathers, our own old boys, ladies and gentlemen. As I stand here before you, I am overwhelmed and overcome with a set of emotions. Yet, very proud to recall and say a few words about my dear friend Atul Devaya. Atul, a brave heart, and my batchmate of the batch of 1968. Atul was born into a family deeply connected with the armed services. His father's two elder brothers served in the army during the World War II. Besides this, Atul's father himself, Major Devaya of the Maratha Light Infantry, served the nation well. His brother-in-law is also from the armed forces and is Colonel Appaya. And more importantly, but not the least, his very own uncle is none other than Field Marshal Karyappa. Atul joined St. Joseph's Boys High School when his father was posted here in Bangalore. He was an excellent all-rounder, particularly excelled in hockey, as Chris just showed that slide. An athlete, an outstanding NCC cadet. I fondly recall, as a fellow cadet in the NCC, we attended many a parade and 2 camps, one at Tumkur and the other one at Kengeri in the mid-60s. He was commissioned in the 6th Battalion of the Maratha Light Infantry in December of 1975 at Pithogarh. He was later posted as the ADC to the Governor of Meghalaya. Thereon, he was inducted along with his unit to the demanding and challenging Citations Glacier. Here, he was appointed as a Bravo Company Commando. Atul's professional acumen, brave attitude, valor, and devotion to duty made him stand tall in the highest battlefield of the world, and that is Citations Glacier. On 14th of February of 1987, Major P. Atul Devaya and his team of 12, whilst on an official routine forward patrol duty, were swept away by a mighty avalanche. His loss at a very young age, and as a brave son, a loving husband, and a father, and of course, a colleague of ours, that loss is felt deeply even today. I recall in school his helpful nature, his antics, his mischievous smile, and always a true friend to many. Some of them are here, some are not. Looms large in my mind even today. As George pointed out this evening, we are assembled here, and our sentiments are with Mrs. Shaila Devaya, his wife, and his sister is also here, Mrs. Swarup Appaya, and his nephew, Mr. and Mrs. Mukul Appaya. On this solemn occasion, let us pray, and let us, I know Atul knows that wherever he is, we are with him. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Yeah. Colonel Francis Machado, again his classmate, will read out the citation.
Just a few words before that. I would like to say that there are not too many Josephites in the armed forces. For some schools were established in our country just to provide officers for our armed forces. But what St. Joseph's does is that it provides quality. And our senior officers sitting here today will attest to that fact, that it is top quality. Baldev was a year senior to me in the National Defence Academy. So was my brother Peter and Nirmaljit Singh. And Captain John D'Souza of 7th Cavalry was of 1963 batch. There were two officers when I was in NDA looking over me, Commander Peter Matthias and Brigadier Vinod Mani. All three were classmates of my elder brothers, and our families were well known to each other. A further surprise awaited me when I joined my regiment. My squadron commander and immediate boss was Major George Matthews Walikapan, a famous son of St. Joseph's of the 1957 batch and a war casualty in 1965 war with Pakistan. Colonel Deepak Gardner, VRC IPKF, and Atul Devaya were both my senior in school, but ended up 6 months junior in the Indian Military Academy. Atul and I were in the same company, Imphal Company, and were very good friends. In true Josephite tradition, we represented Imphal Company in hockey. You saw the picture earlier on, beating 3 fancy teams to reach the finals, but then in the finals we received a sound thrashing. I met Atul again in August 1975 to keep a promise I had made to him and other friends. To keep that promise, I carried a mini bar all the way from Patiala to Dehradun. While I had decided to opt for Armored Corps because of a serious bout of viral hepatitis, Atul was a full-blooded infantryman, very keen to join the Marathas. A tough, jovial character, he was always true to the Kurgi warrior spirit and tradition. He was thrilled to have been commissioned into the 6th Battalion of the Maratha Light Infantry, his father's battalion. Our last meeting was when we both did the commando course at Belgaum in May 1976. The Citations Glacier, as we know, is the highest battleground and the toughest. After months of intense high altitude and mountain warfare training, our tough soldiers are expected to survive 100 days at heights of 21,000 feet and above. Acclimatization training is possible only up to 18,000 feet. Few soldiers have died on the glacier on account of battle and bullets. The real killer is the high altitude and the weather. That is the very heavy price our soldiers pay, and it is much, much more than the nation can ever ask of anybody. The measure and caliber of a soldier can be gauged by the question a commander asks himself: where will you place him in battle? If the answer is on your side and by your side, then you have the best man. I have no doubt that Major Atul Devaya would have been on everyone's short list. The citation as such, parts of it have already been read out, but I shall go through it again. Citation honoring IC 31436 H. Major Palekanda Atul Devaya, 6th Maratha Light Infantry. Major Palekanda Atul Devaya was in command of Bravo Company Commando, 6th Maratha Light Infantry, on the highest battlefield of the world, the Citations Glacier. His dedication, devotion to duty, exemplified a military leader in Operation Meltu. On that fateful day, the 14th of February 1987, Major P. Atul Devaya and his team of 12 were on a routine patrolling duty. At around 0645 hours, as the team approached the halfway link point, nature struck in full fury with a mighty avalanche. Within seconds, the whole patrol was engulfed and buried in tons of snow. The party was immediately spotted, but before they could be rescued, a larger avalanche hit them and swept them into a crevasse with no base. After numerous deliberate attempts, the entire party could not be retrieved, and even today lie underneath thick blankets of ice in the lap of our motherland. The country still awaits her brave son and officer who sacrificed his life at the highest battlefield of the world for the safety and security of our motherland and the glory of his battalion. Major Palekanda Atul Devaya's sudden and tragic demise was a great loss to his beloved wife, Mrs. Shaila Devaya, and his family. His son, Varun, was too young to comprehend this great loss. We are today indeed honored to have in our midst here Mrs. Shaila Devaya and Atul's sister, Mrs. Swarup Appaya. With this memorial ceremony, we hope that as we hold Major Palekanda Atul Devaya with great regard, respect and honor, Atul's near and dear ones who never got a chance to lay his mortal remains to rest may find comfort, peace and acceptance of his untimely passing. On behalf of the Old Boys Association of St. Joseph's Boys High School, Bangalore, along with the class of 1968, we honor and respect the memory of Major Palekanda Atul Devaya. His supreme sacrifice for the nation is etched for posterity on our war memorial. Jai Hind.
I request Ms. Shaila Devaya to please come on stage and receive the memento. General Pingale sir, I request you also to come on stage, sir. CHM Rajaram sir, please. General Pingale and CHM Rajaram are incidentally both from the same battalion. You would be very interested to know that General Pingale was with Atul at the very time when he met with that accident. He was in a different location of the glacier. So, very happy to have him over here. Pingale sir, would you like to say a few words, sir?
Good evening, everyone. In fact, from my battalion side, I express gratitude to the St. Joseph's for organizing such a service for Mr. Devaya. I think remembering old soldiers is always very very eventful for the soldiers who are serving. So it really gives us a proud moment that our citizens and our people of the country are also respecting the army, which is doing so much for the country. And it's a good initiative. I thank Mr. George for this. And as he told us, all the units which were told that this is going to happen for their memorial service for their fallen brothers, everyone just volunteered. So that is what our brotherhood is meant for. Like he was mentioning that I was with him in the glacier. In fact, lot has been said about Mr. Devaya. His batchmates are told about his exploits. as well as the citation, which gives out everything. But there are certain things which, as a unit officer, I was an officer who joined in '82. I was 7 years junior to him. He was one of our guide and mentors. In fact, he guided us through. He had always that pleasing smile and very cooperative nature. And like it was brought out that he never stopped playing hockey. Even when he was a major in '84, before we went to the glacier, he was part of the divisional hockey team. And our division won the trophy because of his training. He was in charge of in charge for training the team as well as taking part in that. And there are about 7 to 8 youngsters in Lucknow. And initially, Mrs. Devaya had not joined in. He used to stay with us for some time. And that is where we had a very close interaction with him. In fact, we used to go together for evening on the Hazratganj Road. We had a lot of memories with him. In fact, when we left for the glacier, that was the last time we met him. Because once you go into your various posts, unless you come down as a battalion, you can never meet him. So in November '86, he was the first one to get into the glacier on behalf of our battalion. Because he happened to be the senior most company commander that time. After that, Colonel Sharma joined the unit, who is also with us today. He is Colonel T.M. Sharma. In fact, he is 1 year senior to him and he knew him very closely. So there are 4 posts which are occupied by a unit. The first post was commanded by Colonel Sharma. Second one, the most difficult, was being commanded by Major Devaya. The third one, which was next to Devaya's post, was my post, which is called Chandan. And the fourth postman was commanded by Santosh Kuru. So 4 of us were company commanders that time. And we all had gone to the glacier in November, December. In fact, as Devaya had gone ahead of us, we used to keep calling him and asking suggestions that what to do in certain situations. The enemy was very active, and during the winters, Jan, Feb, the winters are very severe. And the danger of avalanches and the crevasses opening up is the crevasses. If you go today on the road on this track, you will have no crevasses. But when you go next day, you will find suddenly a huge crevasse there, and you may suddenly drop into that. So these are the various issues which are there, and the avalanche you can never predict. Anytime, wherever the snowfall is there, because of the overloading of snow on the mountains, they just drop down, and there is no escape. So it's a small valley. Once the snow comes down, you have nowhere to go. Either you are buried in the snow or you are carried to the crevasse. Unfortunately, that is what happened on 14 February. So that is, it was a great loss for the unit. In fact, in spite of that, we had to complete our tenure. We finally came down in June '87. And another, because duty has to go on. Only thing which we still feel in our hearts as a unit, that we could not recover those bodies, because they had gone down into a 50-meter deep crevasse. A lot of efforts were made, but the snow had completely filled up the crevasse. So I am very hopeful. When I commanded my unit, I had written to the brigade there at Glacier that because after some years the bodies through the glacier keep coming out. So there is still a hope. Unfortunately, since this was the highest point in the glacier where they had got buried, we are still awaiting, and I am very sure one day the brave soldier will come back. And along with them, there are about 14 Jawans who were there in that party. They are still within there. He is commanding my soldiers there, protecting the country right from 1987 onwards, still serving there. And I am very grateful to the St. Joseph's for organizing this. I am fortunate to have Mrs. Devaya here, Major Devaya's sister, and all the other mothers, daughters and wives of other martyrs who are being honoured here. Thank you and Jai Hind.
We'll now have the presentation for Captain John Dolby, 5 Field Regiment of the class of 1947. I request Colonel Francis Machado to come up again, along with Lieutenant Colonel Nitesh Jakar from 13th Sikh Light Infantry of the class of 2000.
We lived just down the road on Museum Road. The third house on the left. Diagonally opposite was a lane that led down to a bungalow where Captain John Albert Dolby, his wife Joan, and his 2 little daughters Cheryl and Denise lived. As boys, we often walked down this lane, through the open front gate and through a side gate onto Rest House Crescent. It was during a recent conversation with Cheryl that I was informed that it was her dear father who ensured that the front gate was always kept open to enable people to use this shortcut from Museum Road to Rest House Crescent. And it was also only recently that I learned that Captain John Dolby was a Josephite from the 1947 batch. But I do remember him, this tall, handsome officer and gentleman, walking past our home on Museum Road, probably returning from the school chapel, for he was a devout Catholic. I remember him even though I was just 7.5 years old, still studying in St. Anthony's School when he was called up to join his artillery regiment, 5 Field. 4, perhaps 5 ladies, my mother was one of them, knitted a long sleeve pullover within 24 to 36 hours, while one knitted the front, another knitted the back side, and 2 knitted the 2 sleeves. It was all put together and presented to Captain Dolby well before he taught the trade. Vaguely, I also remember that we all went to the old Bangalore City railway station to see him off. Such was the camaraderie, the community spirit that pervaded the area surrounding our school. Therefore, it was with extreme shock that we received the tragic news that Captain John Dolby was reported missing in action. Everybody prayed for his return. The uncertainty continued as there were many reports of sightings here and there. His family, his wife Joan, his daughters Cheryl and Denise never gave up hope. I can understand to some extent the difficulties during that war. For in June 1998, I was posted as Deputy Commander of 190 Mountain Brigade, the brigade presently located in Tawang. And as we crossed the Sailor Pass, there was a little bit of snow, and a little further down the mountain was a place called Jaswantgarh, named after Rifleman Jaswant Singh of 4 Gadwal Rifles, who was awarded the Mahavir Chakra and killed in action. It is a place where military convoys called for a tea break, and a temple has been constructed on the side of the road in memory of Jaswant Singh. As I climbed up, looking around, I was shocked to see a kilometer stone with Captain John Dolby's name on it. Until then, I had no idea into which sector of the war that Captain Dolby had been sent, and had no idea that his battery commander was his friend Major John Emmanuel Lawrence Brito, also our family friend. So it was 36 years after the war that I was in the general area from where Captain John Albert Dolby was reported missing in action. From his battery commander, Major Jel Brito, who was captured by the Chinese, I was able to elicit information that Captain Dolby was tasked to lead an officer-led patrol to check on enemy ingress in the area of Jung Falls, and if the enemy had occupied the old bridge near Jung Falls. This patrol, in all probability, did battle with a very hardy Mongol-type Chinese independent mountain brigade and was never heard of again. Unfortunately, the fog of war applies, and there are few details that are known. I made it a point to climb up these high mountains and to pay my respects where blood was shed by our soldiers, but I was well clad. Unlike our troops of 1962, who were sent up in cotton clothing, 303 rifles with 50 rounds of ammunition, our artillery guns had about 450 rounds of ammunition and the same number for our heavy mortar rounds. That would suffice for about 30 minutes of intense battle. Lastly, I have small satisfaction in that I was involved in the construction of the Tawang War Memorial, which started and almost finished just before I left. And a great part of that satisfaction is because I researched the names of the officers and Jawans killed, and I planned the layout unit-wise on all the 27 stones that are fitted in the Tawang War Memorial. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will be reading the citation honoring IC 5380 Captain John Albert Dalby of 5 Field Regiment. Born on 19th October 1930, Captain John Albert Dalby belonged to the class of 1947 of St. Joseph's. Commissioned as an officer in the Regiment of Artillery, he joined 5 Field Regiment. When hostilities commenced with China in October 1962, the unit was deployed in Northeast Frontier Agency, now known as Arunachal Pradesh, under the Sela garrison. At that time, Captain Dalby was a young and dynamic second-in-command of Cubic Battery of the unit in the Jaswantgarh sector. Under the capable command of Lieutenant Colonel B.R. Barwar, 5 Field Regiment was engaged in providing fire support to the 1st Sikh Infantry Battalion of the garrison. Within 6 years of being raised, the regiment was therefore literally baptized by fire. As the battle progressed, Captain Dalby, along with brave Rajput troops and blazing artillery guns, provided continuous fire support to the operation of 1st Sikh in the fierce combat with the Chinese. The battery delivered accurate and timely fire on the hordes of advancing enemy troops. Leading from the front, Captain Dalby ensured that the morale of his men remained high in the face of insurmountable odds and the possibility of complete annihilation. In the thick of the battle, there was a requirement of sending out an aggressive area domination and any enemy information seeking trans-border patrol. In the face of the brutal Chinese offensive and given the critical nature of the task, the patrol was required to be led by an officer. Knowing about the urgency and importance of the patrol, Captain Dalby volunteered for this challenging responsibility and led the patrol. Soon after they set out, the tiny group of brave soldiers stood no chance, being severely outnumbered and facing heavy enemy fire. The gallant men of the patrol, under the dauntless leadership of Captain Dalby, fought to the last bullet before every person in the patrol achieved martyrdom for their motherland on 18th November 1962. Sadly, the bodies of most, including Captain John Dalby, could never be retrieved. In that historic battle of the Sela garrison, 5 Field Regiment lost 7 officers, including the commanding officer and Captain Dalby, 7 junior commissioned officers and 120 other ranks. With his leadership, grit and outstanding bravery, Captain John Dalby made the supreme sacrifice, laying down his life for his motherland. In doing so, he brought glory to the soaring family, his regiment and his alma mater, St. Joseph's. Jai Hind. Thank you.
I request Major General George Sradhav, Ati Vishit Seva Medal, the senior most artillery officer here today, to please come on stage. Also request Colonel Babu and Colonel Suri, both veterans of 5 Field Regiment, please come up. Nice to know they're both course-mates, Army course-mates. Since the National Defense Academy days. I request Cheryl to please come and receive the plaque. Cheryl has come all the way from Australia. Cheryl, you would like to say a few words?
A very good evening to all of you. I am an army brat, so in case I can't finish this small speech, I've brought a backup behind me. So the Dolby and Manas family would like to thank each of you for your presence, kindness and support by being here and sharing this beautiful and touching ceremony to honor IC number 5380, Captain John Dolby. I, Cheryl, his daughter, would like to specially acknowledge and thank the following. I'd like him to stand up, Lieutenant Colonel P.T. Lazarus, Bobby, who fulfilled my mother June's wishes and organized a memorial to be built in Jaswangarh in 1987 in memory of my father John. If it was not for showing your love and care for my mother, Denise and I, in organizing the construction of the memorial, this incredible, beautiful and touching journey of closure and honoring my father would never have transpired. The President of St. Joseph's Old Boys Association, Mr. George Olapalli. Without George's caring, compassion, passionate commitment to rectify and oversight after nearly 6 decades, this ceremony would never have taken place. Rita Abraham, sister of George Olapalli and a schoolmate of mine, when receiving the photograph of the memorial in Jaswangarh from George, scoured the world for months to find me, to share the photograph with. Thank you from my heart. The Old Boys Association, St. Joseph's School, Bangalore, for their support and organization of this day. The Old Boys of St. Joseph's who worked so hard in the background to make this so successful. And those who gave up their time to be present today, to pay their respects to these 4 old boys of your school, thank you from my heart. The Archbishop of Bangalore, the principals past and present of the school, the Jesuit fathers, and Sister John. Thank you for being here and being my support. The Indian Army, in particular the following serving officers, General Ponapa and General Grover, who moved mountains behind the scenes to ensure that every aspect of all ceremonies were conducted with precision and utmost respect for these martyrs. Colonel Menon, officer commanding 5th Field Regiment, and all members of the 5th Field family. Colonel Menon worked untiringly for many months, left no stone unturned, coordinating and overseeing several key functions and tasks. All the retired officers present here today, who have come from far and near, and in particular Colonel Babu and Colonel Suri, who like all soldiers quietly worked effectively and efficiently in the background. Thank you for being here. All serving officers present, including the officers JCOs representing the regiments of these martyrs, thank you for being here and honoring our loved ones. We appreciate your presence and efforts behind the scenes. Mark Rigo, for assisting and supporting me always. Mark is very special to me and thank you for always being there for me, Mark. The choir for their amazing singing and their contribution to this day being so beautiful. He unfortunately is feeling very ill, but you must have seen Father Stan, who came and sat next to me. Father Stan, who through the years, in spite of ill health that dogged his whole life, stood by the Dolby family since he was a very young priest. He stood by my mother and sister, and especially me. Since my birth, he has been there for me emotionally, supported, guided, and mentored me throughout my life with understanding and patience. Father, even though you're not here, I am eternally grateful that God sent you into my life, and I thank you. For those of you who are present here today, who either grew up with or knew Dad and Mom in a special way, especially Uncle Godfrey Robo Prabhu. Where are you? "1962 was a terrible year for you as it was for our family. Dad missing in action and then presumed dead had a devastating effect on all of us. I know how difficult it has been for you emotionally today, for those who knew Dad. I give you special thanks and hope that when you walk away today after this function, like me, you will find closure in the knowledge that Dad and Mom are together, and so much effort has gone into honoring Dad and the other officers for the supreme sacrifice they made for their country and for us. The Madras Engineering Group Bangalore Band, words cannot express how much I appreciate your playing. This makes this ceremony so much more special, having you play so beautifully. My special school friends, can you please stand? Come on. I've known these girls from nursery, who are here, and some who are unable to attend. Thank you for your support, encouraging words, and most of all, the understanding and love you have given me over the last couple of months, when it has been very difficult for me emotionally. The families, representatives of Major Devaya, Major Shankar Ghosh, Major Ratnam, thank you for sharing this day with me. I hope all will walk away feeling as proud as I am that we are the families of very brave soldiers who unselfishly gave their lives so young to protect our country for our futures. To the past student associations of other schools in Bangalore, thank you for being present today and laying a wreath to honor these brave soldiers. And then to Susan Olpari, where are you? A really beautiful person. I have no words, Susan, that are adequate to thank you for all you've done for me. If I have left out anyone, it is not by intent, but an honest oversight. It has been a long and heart-breaking journey for me. As John's oldest daughter, I will be eternally grateful to all of you for assisting me to have final closure after 58 years. Being able to farewell Dad in such a fitting way, visiting his beloved regiment, meeting and spending time with the members of the Ferocious Five, being able to lay a wreath in Jaswantgarh, and at the very spot my father was ambushed. And at this area, he gave his life for our country, and witnessing his school honoring him in such a touching ceremony, I have found peace within myself that Dad has been fittingly recognized for his unselfish sacrifice. My dad and mom, I know, have watched over all of these functions and ceremonies with so much happiness and pride. For those of you who are traveling back to your homes, have a safe journey. May God bless, be with, and watch over all of you present today, all those involved in organizing all the ceremonies and functions, and guide and bless your loved ones always. Rest in peace, Dad and Mom, until we all meet again and are reunited as a family for all eternity. No more hurt, no more tears, no more pain, only peace, happiness, and eternal rest. Until then, at the rising and the setting of the sun, every day, wherever we are, your 2 daughters, 4 grandchildren and their spouses, your great-grandson, and all the members of the Dolby and Manas family. Wherever we are in the world, we will remember you with love and pride. Thank you. I would like to ask George to please come forward. George Alupalli. He'll probably kill me for this because this is not part of the program. George, I brought this specially from Australia to thank you so much for all you did for me and also for my family.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Colonel Suri would like to say just a couple of words.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I request you all to please stand up and give a standing ovation to this brave lady of my field regiment. This is what is known as a 4-year young girl when he loses her father as a martyr. I think there are very few examples of such love, such affection, such reverence, and so much of respect. She has taken all the pains to come from Australia, to go to Aurangabad, to the regiment, to go to Devlali, to go to Nasik Road, to come down here and go to all the war memorials where her late brave father was there, who paid attention and who lost his life fighting for this nation. I just want to give you one small little information. 5 Field Regiment lost 7 officers, 7 JCOs and 120 ORs during 1965 war. I have had the privilege of eventing very royally, not only them, but during 1965 war, I have had the privilege of commanding a battery and killing more than 500 Pakistanis with my guns. I've been cited for Mahavir Chakra twice, but that is immaterial. What matters to the soldier is that we have avenged those people who have killed our regimental officers, and we have protected the integrity and freedom of this nation. Jai Hind! Bharat Mata Ki! Bharat Mata Ki! Bharat Mata Ki!
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Major Uday Shankar Ghosh, Sena Medal, 13th Sikh Light Infantry of the class of 1963. I request Major General Balasubramanian Tambaya, Ativishit Seva Medal of the Corps of Engineers, and Brigadier Vinod Mani from the Gorkha Regiment, both of them from the class of 1963, to come on stage. I also request Ms. Supti Ghosh to please come up.
Me and Uday Shankar Ghosh were classmates. Amongst us, he was always known as Ghosh. From the 1963 batch, I was in the B section, he was in the A section. Yes, a born sportsman, a good cricketer, but could not take part in most of the school activities post 3 o'clock, basically because he had to catch the bus back to the Indian Institute of Science. Till 10th, we were together. Thereafter, I moved on to do my engineering, and he did his BSc from Gas College. We did not meet, continued. It was in 1976 when I was posted at Allahabad as the ADC to the GSC. along with the GOCP, had flown down to the brigade at Kanpur. And there, who do I come across in Pensacola? It is Ghosh. Yes, first thing he told me, he said, Bala, I've overtaken you, I've got married. Like that, we met quite a few times, but very short and very brief period. And look at the irony of it. From the east, this battalion gets airlifted via Guwahati, and they flew out there. Come to Sri Lanka. This is in 87. And what happens? From there, I moved down to Bangalore in month of May 89. And I get the shock news that just before the de-induction of the battalion from Sri Lanka, my wonderful friend is gone. So this is what we have been through. Yes, life is exciting, all right now, but sometimes pretty tragic. I know how his wife should be, and the two wonderful sons, Saurabh and Gaurav, both of whom have now grown up. They were just 10-year-old and 4-year-old then, and used to stay in the separated family quarters across the enemy mess. To date, Saurabh is a gastroenterologist and Gaurav is a dentist, doing their father proud. Without further ado, I'll now hand you over to another classmate of mine, Brigadier Vinod Mani, otherwise affectionately known to us as Pathai, for the citations and for him. Thank you, Bala.
Major Uday Shankar Ghosh, Sena Medal. U.S. Ghosh, as we called him, was from the class of 63 from our school. He joined a new raising, 13th Battalion, the 6th Light Infantry, also called Guru's Own, sometime in July 1979. Driven by passion and fire in his belly, Major Ghosh excelled as a professional soldier, always seeking to take on new challenges. A gentleman to the core, he was adored by the troops and revered by his peers. Ghosh's tryst with destiny came when Guru's Own was airlifted to Sri Lanka as part of the Indian peacekeeping force during Operation Pavan on 11th October 1987. A true soldier, he took to combat like a fish to water, and during the next 2 years remained in the thick of battle. Lovingly called Dada in his battalion, he was the man Friday to his commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel R.S. Sethi, Yudh Seva Medal. With his guile and ingenuity, he was able to gather intelligence on the enemy despite the complete hostile environment. With his Khalsas, Major Ghosh battled and apprehended hardcore militants while based in the strife-ridden town of Trincomalee. On 26 June 1989, Major Ghosh was tasked to lead a dangerous and challenging mission in the Muttur sector. During their movement, his column of troops came under heavy and sustained militant fire. Habituated to face grave danger head-on, Major Ghosh and his men returned the fire fearlessly. Unnerved by this fierce response, the militants fled. In this action, however, Major Ghosh was fatally wounded. This brave soldier and beloved son of India thus laid down his life, fighting like a warrior till his last breath. For his selfless dedication and devotion to duty, Major Uday Shankar Ghosh was awarded the Sena Medal. What better way to die than facing fearful odds for the ashes of his father and the temple of his gods. May his soul rest in peace.
Can I request Colonel Nitesh Jakhar to please come on stage? Colonel Jakhar is from the same regiment, serving in Manipur at the moment. He's come down all the way from there, and he's also a Josephite. Sir, may I request you to present the plaque, firstly to the unit, sir. On behalf of 13th Sikh Light Infantry, Colonel Jakhar. I request Michelle and the White to please accept a memento. I request Dr. Saurabh Ghosh to please come on stage and say a few words about his father. He is the eldest son of Major Uday Shankar Ghosh.
Being a soldier, it's indeed our task to bring back memories of a martyred soldier. There are hundreds of things and anecdotes I can recall about my father, the late Major Uday Shankar Ghosh, Sena. An honor bestowed upon him by a grateful nation. At a tender young age of 18, one makes a conscious career choice of wanting to don a soldier's uniform to serve the nation. It is a calling. From the depth of one's heart, from the moment he joins the forces, his first love is the country. Nothing, absolutely nothing, and no one comes before that. His country, the safety of his country and the safety of the people, that is paramount. That is his religion, his love, his duty. The nation first, all else last. And this too at the cost of his own life. And such was the life of my father, Major Ghosh, who laid down his life in a distant country, fighting to maintain peace over there, because his country believed it was the right thing to do. A soldier never questions. He never asks why. His is to do and die. Dear principal, staff, students, and the alumni of St. Joseph's School, I am indeed honored and humbled to accept your invitation to be with you at this prestigious institution, where once my father's young footfalls must have resounded and reverberated in the halls, the corridors, and the playgrounds of this one of the oldest institutions in Bangalore. We were very small when my father went to war and never returned. At that tender age, we could not comprehend the magnitude of the loss, but with each passing year, we wanted to know more and more, and this is what we were told by his colleagues. Your dad was a soldier. His name lies immortalized in the annals of the history of the Indian Army. He left his home shores with a smile on his face, hugs and kisses for the family and you children, and carrying the country's flag high, held head high. When he returned, he was wrapped up in the same flag. It was as if the flag had embraced his noble son in her warmth for defending her honor. When he returned, the nation stood as one to salute him. When he returned, the nation cried as one to mourn his loss. Tell your friends that my dad gave up his life today for your tomorrow. Tell him that he gave up his life so that the country may sleep in peace at night. For his supreme courage and sacrifice, the nation honored him with a wartime award, the Sena Medal Gallantry. In the books and monuments of the martyrs, His name too stands as one. Tell them your dad was a soldier. Tell them he was a hero. He gave up his life to protect the glory of a half a meter tricolour cloth, which we call the Indian flag. Tell them he'll never be forgotten. His motherland will always remember him, because martyrs never die, neither do they retire. As I stand here today in front of all of you, I am assured that his name remains in your memories, the alumni of his alma mater, who never forgot him. Thank you. Our mothers, sisters, wives of these soldiers are not less brave at heart. They too face the same gamut of emotions that our men face. They send the men on assignments with smile on their faces and prayers on their lips, with heart laden with fear, hope, and above all, faith in Almighty. Their mind constantly strained, their tongue always moving in prayer for the safe return of their loved ones. They bear the heavy burden of preserving the sanity at home and assuring the family that all is well. Positive thinkers, they do not allow the fears to pass on to the young ones and the people whom they love. Courage runs in the family, pride dominates. A moment like this makes everything worthwhile. To be a soldier is a noblest profession. To declare, to promise, to vow, to swear, to pledge, to take an oath, to proclaim, and to assert that you will lay down your life to protect your country and your people is nobility. That this is your destiny, your dharma and your karma. To be a soldier is the noblest profession. The country has produced and will continue producing great soldiers. An institution like this are birthplaces of such people. From deep in my heart, on behalf of my late father, my mother, my brother and his family, I thank you for having me here with you all and allowing me to imagine that his spirit may be listening this evening with a smile and his fondness he had for his alma mater. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. Major Sylvester Rajesh Ratnam, 21 Jat, the class of 1988. I request Ripin Ram of the class of 89, Colonel R.K.D. Kapoor from 4 Jat Battalion and now the Army Service Corps, Air Marshal Trevor Osman, retired, Ati Vishwat Seva Medal, Param Vishwat Seva Medal, our most senior old boy in the services. He was the Vice Chief of Air Staff. So I request you also to come on stage, sir. Major Bala, Major Devendra, are you here? Yeah, please come up. Also from 21 Jat. And of course, Miss Hebala Ratnam, the proud mother of our brave martyr. Please come on stage. Ripin, would you like to say a few words?
Good evening, Father Principal and distinguished guests. Late Major Sylvester Rajesh Ratnam, batch of 1988, was a year senior to me at school. At school, his magnetic personality always drew multiple friends accompanying him at all times, each of them smiling if not laughing. Ever ready to help, Sylvester helped trace a classmate who had run away from home after a spat with the parents. Sylvester was part of the library squad that would monitor and rein in students who disregard the rules, who would make away with a few pages from the books, if not the books itself. He was an active member of the chemistry club. Being action-oriented, Sylvester was always seen indulging in commando comics. One of the first to have a VCR, first few to have a VCR, he would invite us schoolmates over to his house and get everyone hooked up to movies like Grease 2, Cobra, Rocky, Bud Spencer and Terence Hill, Smokey and the Bandits, Airwolf and likewise. Inspired by his mother, who herself served as an under officer in the senior division NCC, and a national level shooting gold medalist, Sylvester joined the NCC. He was my senior and designated Lance Corporal for a battalion. He was always, and more importantly, impressed upon others to join the NCC. It was here that Sylvester would continuously state his eagerness to join the armed forces to serve our country. He kept at it relentlessly right through school, college, and thereafter, until his childhood dreams was finally realized when he passed out of the Officers Training Academy in Chennai on September 1998 and was commissioned as lieutenant into 21st Jat of the famed Jat Regiment, known for its gallantry and various battle honors, represented here by Major Bala Murugan. Fun-loving, ready to help, and always talk about the army. That's a Sylvester I know, and I'm proud to say that he rose above and beyond the call of duty even until his last breath. Jai Hind.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be talking about and being given the onerous task of honoring SS 37536 Major Sylvester Rajesh Ratnam of the 21st Battalion, the Jat Regiment. Sylvester joined our school in the 4th standard in 1981. He enrolled in the Scouts and later excelled in NCC, as was mentioned earlier. Always aspiring to join the Indian Army. Perhaps he was influenced by his grandfather and father, who were part of the armed forces. Sylvester, as his personality, he was a tall and handsome young man, good in music, and had a great sense of humor that won him loads of friends. He passed out of school in 1988 and joined Jet Airways after his graduation. But his passion to join the army saw him get selected into the Officers Training Academy and then commissioned into 21st Battalion, the Jat Regiment. After undergoing his commando training, he was posted in Kupwara along the J&K border. As an officer, he was well loved and respected. On that eventful day, 2nd of August 2002, his troops came under heavy enemy fire. He, true to the traditions, rushed out to get his men back to safety in the bunkers. When the last of his men was safe, and just before Major Sylvester could enter the bunker, an enemy shell landed near him, and the shrapnel was enough to snatch the life of this brave soldier, who laid down his life giving the supreme sacrifice for our motherland. Mrs. Hemla Ratnam recalls how at India Gate he told her that one day she would be very proud of him, and he was prepared to serve courageously and even lay down his life for his country. He had a heart of gold. In his parish church, every Easter season, he would be requisitioned to take the role of Jesus to sing the Passion of Christ for 5 years before joining the army. Along with his parish choir group, he would visit orphanages and Mother Teresa homes to bring joy to the children in these homes. Today, his mother is inspired to work through the Vincent de Paul Society for the upliftment of the poor, happily remembering that it was Sylvester that encourages her even today. We, the Old Boys Association of St. Joseph's Boys High School, Bangalore, salute, honor, and remember our very own and dear martyr and old boy, Major Sylvester Rajesh Ratnam, who laid down his life on that eventful day, 2nd August 2002. Jai Hind.
Colonel Babu and Colonel Suri, both representing 5th Field Regiment. Sir, yes. Ma'am, would you like to say a few words, please?
Since Cheryl has spoken a lot about the choir, our Archbishop, and all the other distinguished guests, I don't want to take much of your time, so a very few words. First of all, I want to thank the Almighty God for blessing me with a wonderful son. Sylvester studied in this prestigious institution, which taught him the Christian values of love, kindness, compassion, and understanding, which he lived up to the last moment of his life. He sacrificed his life and became a martyr on the field of battle in Operation Parakram, upholding the highest traditions of the Indian Army. Even before his death, he saved many Jawans in the safety of the bunker before sacrificing his life so that others may live in peace and freedom. He had lived a life of a true Christian. His heroic spirit will inspire many youngsters to follow his footsteps. I am proud of my son. Today he has not just engraved his name in the history of our country, but etched his name in each of our hearts. I thank the OBA President, Mr. George Olapalli, for honoring the martyrs' families. I thank Reverend Fathers, the principal. I remember the earlier principal when Sylvester was studying here, 1981, Father Shenoy. I remember all the other principals under whom my son served. I thank each and every one of you for taking part in this occasion, spending your precious time. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Ratna. A word about our colleagues from Bishop Cotton's. I happen to be the historian of the school, and I discovered right since 1878, they used to march opposite sides of the road in their smart dresses with their ties, and occasionally, of course, throw stones at each other occasionally and even hurl the foulest epithets. Well, that happens all the way right up to today. It happened even a couple of years ago. But I have to mention that I myself, when I was in the academy, it was the Josephites and the Cottonians who were the strongest of friends. Whenever we juniors were being bullied by the seniors, yes, absolutely. Whenever we were being bullied by our seniors, it was, a senior Cottonian who would quietly bring us into his cabin and spare us the bullying. Something very interesting that Air Marshal Trevor Osman is half Cottonian and half Josephite. I don't know if anybody knew that, but the major credit goes to St. Joseph's, please. Okay. He passed out from here. Sir, can I hand over the mic to Air Marshal Trevor Osman?
Thank you very much. I'm going to have to amend what I wanted to say because I've been undercut by various speakers. And this whole story starts in 1947, because I did point out that we didn't have any names on the school memorial post-independence. I'm so glad that St. Joseph's and the OBA have seen fit to correct this, albeit after 6 years, but they've done it in spades. I could not have imagined or even dreamt that they would do such a fine job in bringing closure to our four heroes' families and loved ones. Because in the final analysis, although we pay our tributes, the armed forces pays its tribute, the nation pays its tribute. The final brunt is borne by the families and the loved ones. I remember when I did serve as the ADC to the President, Dr. Radhakrishnan, and we used to have these investiture ceremonies after the wars, various wars that India fought. Starting in 1947, when we had to repel an invasion into Kashmir, followed by 1962, the Chinese operations, the Chinese border war along the northern frontiers. Then in 1965 against Pakistan, and then in 1971, and followed by Indian Army being called upon to fight in Sri Lanka, in Kargil, measles, Nagas. When our country starts to curl up at the edges, and we have insurgencies, it is the Indian Army that defends the Indian Constitution and bears the brunt and produces the results. And of course, the price is paid in gallant lives, because the Army, the Navy and the Air Force, unfortunately, only pick from the best. And the flower of our youth goes into war, and many of them make the final sacrifice. And these are the people we are here to honor and remember today. For it is said, and all of us believe, that when we remember, I use the word recall, when we recall our loved ones who fought for the country and who sacrificed their lives, when we remember them in our words, our thoughts, and in our hearts, we call them back to life, and they will live. They live virtually in our hearts. And in this way, we perpetuate them, which is why this ceremony conducted today by the OBA and St. Joseph's, and the commemorative plaques, which will be renewed with the ceremony every year for all the schoolboys and for all those who pass by to read and to absorb, is something that will perpetuate the memory, and they will live for as long as this school exists. And I must point out also that our school at the OBA, in honoring the sacrifices that our armed forces have performed over the years, from the birth of this nation till today, the glory that the school renders to them is reflected back on the school. The school, in turn, is proud of its sons and also derives the benefit of their deeds. For even in the school song we say, to win and spread our school's renown, and with our deeds enrich the ground. So it's two-way street, which is why the school today is honoring us and remembering us. I would like to now close by paying three tributes. One, to our wonderful armed forces, who guard against not only external threats, but even internal threats. Today, we have a proxy war going on in most places of the world, even as far as New Zealand, peaceful Sri Lanka, which has already come through one harrowing experience. And there is no place that is safe from these proxy wars and terrorism
This is the new form of warfare. Our armed forces have to be on the alert, day and night, at the snowy heights, in the deserts, and in the swamps, to guard against us. All of us, therefore, it behooves all of us to support them in this task and to give them the wherewithal that they need. I would like to thank St. Joseph's and the OBA and all Josephites, past and present, for attending and supporting this. And I'm sure there are many more who would have liked to have been here today, who haven't made it. But for them, we've got the memorial now carved in stone, and we've got the citations and plaques for anybody who wishes to pass by our lobby and read it. And finally, I would like to thank the OBA President, the OBA as such, represented by the President and the members of the Council of Members. And I would like to do this on behalf of the families of my brothers in arms who laid down their lives. It just remains for me to say, Fidei Lavore and Jai Hind.